Hello, hello. Welcome to our neck of the woods. Um, how's everybody doing today? Good to see you guys. Uh, is sound and everything okay? Can you guys let me know if you can hear us and see us? Um, and then I've got a light bit of housekeeping that I want to talk about, and then um, we'll open up conversation to whatever. So, all right, Anna, sounds good. I hope you feel better, hon. Hey, Crystal. Good to see you. Um, all right, so real quick, get the housekeeping bit out of the way. Um, I got an email the other day from one of our listeners, and I have yet to answer it because I wasn't sure what the answer was. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be talking distracted, but again. Um, so here's the deal, and I know most of you know this, and most of you already are like, yeah, I don't know what she's talking about, but we are going to disagree with people, and that is okay. We are going to have differences of opinion, and that is okay. We are going to have different belief systems, and that is okay. You don't have to agree with everyone. This is not about trying to convince somebody to change their way of thinking in that manner. Nobody's trying to take anything away from you. Nobody's trying to railroad you, run you over, or convince you of anything. When we have our talks up here, we try to keep it an open forum. Um, and we try to respect each other's belief systems, and we try to share knowledge of different belief systems. That's all we're doing. I'm not trying to convince anybody of what's right or wrong. Each person has their own path, and we have all here pretty much accepted that. So, that being said, um, I like to think that I'm a pretty tolerant person. However, Um, there was an incident that happened over on Gigi's last night where a fella came in talking about all manner of garbage, in my opinion, and that might be his belief system, and that's fine. I didn't want to hear about it. Um, Luckily, uh, the sovereign beings, creator said, "We're cutting off your signal," and he did it repeatedly, so we couldn't get back in. So that was probably him saying, "No, Heather, don't open your mouth. Don't open your mouth." And I find that happens to me quite frequently when I shouldn't open my mouth. So I take that as a blessing, and I accept it as such. That being said, if you out there in listener land ever try to come up on our panel and and do something that is beyond toleration or mischievous or well, not even mischievous because that's more on the playful side, but if you come up here being disrespectful, I just won't take it. If you come into our chat being disrespectful, we just aren't going to take it anymore. um, this is a free speech platform in as far as we can allow it to be. People know trigger words, get things taken down. Try not to use them. Everybody here has been very kind and very courteous and very respectful for the most part. Um, so I needed to take care of that. I needed to clear the air with that, because there will be certain things that I probably will not tolerate. And as much as I want to be a tolerant person, if you come on my show talking about things that are of a nature that cause harm to others or other life, I am not going to tolerate that. Um, that's a line for me, and I'm not going to let that be crossed. So there's that. So how's everybody doing today? I, I'm sorry I had to put that, guys. I was trying to be gentle, but um, we are at a point now where people are going to try and be disruptive just for the sake of being disruptive, and I just kind of want to put our little crystalline bubble over us, right? And have our little rosy blush of love with our family here, and just stay connected and be in the joy and the love of life, because that's really important. Now, I haven't heard about that. It doesn't really surprise me. Um, uh, right with you, I avoid most of this surface style news now. I used to be on it before pretty much everybody else. And my mind was so busy, my cogs were, uh, and so I had to pull back in order to I had to pull back to find what I was really looking for. I was really looking for much, much deeper. And so I have, to an extent, cut off the surface news as much as possible. So there's that. That's not to say that I don't stay up on it. That's not to say that I don't enjoy you guys drop tidbits for me. It's just that I myself um, decided that I explored the Warren as far as I wanted to explore it, and that was good. So, all right. So, come on. What do you guys want to talk about? Wonderful, lovely November 1st today. 11/1. 111. Uh, I did title this Sleeping, Waking, and Dreaming. Not everything is as it seems. And I know I left that really generic. I try to do that because we never know where the conversation will take us. But kind of just as a, hey, Don, good to see you. Glitchy. All right. Well, if y'all will give me a moment, I'll reload. Okay. Give me 1 minute and I'll be right back. Okay. Can you guys hear me better now? Pappy was telling me. Do we sound okay now? Hello? Hello? Okay. Well, sleeping, waking, and dreaming. Most people are still walking around dreaming, thinking they're awake. I think that's important. I think that is that's probably not where I want to take the conversation today. Thank you, Peppy. Thank you, Dawn. Um, we sleep to rest, to dream. We learn things in our sleep. I truly believe that. Um, but there is a lot of awake dreaming that we do as well. And some intentional, like meditation, and some not, like spacing out, right? Uh, hey, Robert, there you are. Good morning, brother. Um, so, I don't know. I have a multitude of thoughts on that subject, and I had to listen to some cleansing music for my energy today. Clean the house, energy. Um, I had to do that this morning before I came on because I was still finding myself a little like like that tickle at the back of your throat, right? About last night, about what happened over on Gigi's. I don't know why I was upset about that. I don't know. I think I over personalized it, which is ego, right? And what we try to do on a daily basis to be better people is to rid ourselves of that ego mind and live from a place of spirituality. And oh, Dawn, I'm sorry to hear that, honey. Have you asked? Have you asked your dad his reasons? Because I find, um, as I've gotten older, I understand the elders' reasoning a little bit better than I did when I was younger. And sometimes it's a reason of, oh, honey. Sometimes it's them not wanting us to have those final memories of them being sick. Not to remember them in that light, but to remember them healthy, to remember them that way. Um, well, Dawn, I'm very sorry that you are going through that, hon. And all I can say is don't let one person's anger um, stop you from sending love to your mom, right? Because she'll receive it. She will receive it. Just keep sending it. Just keep sending it. They can't stop the flow of energy, and they can't stop that. Nobody can do that. Nobody can stop that flow of energy. So don't allow them. Don't allow them control of your life, right? I am sorry about that. I do know that circumstances are sometimes what they are, and they're outside of our purview of being able to change them. And you might be, Dawn, if that may be exactly what it is. That may be her spirit visiting your spirit and letting you know, hey, I'm still here. I still love you. You know, ask her to impart some wisdom to you before dream time is over, and go in with the intention of being able to bring that knowledge back to your conscious mind as well. Sometimes that helps a lot. So, and if I may make a suggestion, is keep a journal. Journal these dreams that you're having about your mom and the things that she's told you in your dream. Okay? Because you may look back on that someday and find nuggets of wisdom that you didn't know were there. So, just something I would do if it were me in your spot. That's probably what I would do. So, so what do you guys want to talk about today? Somebody give me something. Pink polar bears, you know? Aliens in the Bible, you know? Lingams all over Asia for a free energy system that used to exist, no? Any takers? I've got a lot of stuff floating around in here today, so just pull something out. Or we're going to have a short show, because I do have other things to get done today as well, so... all right, well, I will paint and give you folks a few minutes to decide what we want to do here today, because I come on here with very little, if anything, pre-planned. I know, Robert.
Let me come on here. I can bring stuff.
Come up here with your coffee. I just made a fresh pot myself. Well, Dawn, uh, let me tell you, if you go out to a Bible store and you look at all the different versions, look up the same verse in like several other versions, and you're going to find a whole bunch of different words meaning different things. It could actually been unicorn. If you realize that the Book of Enoch has been quoted in the Bible by other biblical scholars that are still contained in those references, and you go back and you read the Book of Enoch tells you that we were not only visited, but we were taught by star beings. So, at the behest of Creator. So it's a very interesting story. If we were engineered, what else were engineered? That's all I'm gonna ask. Good morning, Pappy. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing. I could complain, but I won't because it'd just be wasting breath.
You sound like you're a little discombobulated today.
I am. I've got a bit of a headache behind my eyes for the last 4 days. I woke up okay this morning, but as the day has worn on some, it's just picking up and ticking right behind my eyes. I got a lot of pressure going on. So.
Well, I'm not surprised, with the electromagnetic energy that we had coming in from the sun over this weekend. I mean, even I was experiencing some problems with that. But, it's decidedly better today than it was, Saturday and Sunday. So I don't feel too awful bad at all today. Plus, the sun is shining, so that's a good thing.
I've already been out in it.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, yay, the rain stopped. The day's beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna go shopping today, and my wife says, well, I was planning on going with you tomorrow. And I said, ooh, that's even better. Help with carrying in the groceries, so I'm waiting till tomorrow.
Right on. Jackpot.
Well, okay. Somebody's got to say hi here. Hold on.
Hi, Sir Lix-a-Lot. Oh, I love that puppy.
Yep, that's Sir Lix-a-Lot. He hears me talking, so he's saying hello to everybody.
Sweet. I love that dog.
I
miss my puppy. He makes me miss my boy.
Well, I wanted to read you something here. I was listening to you talk and everything, so maybe we can get something out of this. Let's see if I can read it. It's called Accepting the Hug.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Well, sometimes we can get so excited over something, that we overreact and cause all kinds of mischief for ourselves and those around us too. The excitement is usually coming from an emotional reaction that will find its way around logical or common sense thinking. When that happens, things can and do occur that were never anticipated. Maybe old habits kick in, or a pathway is open to a long struggle ahead. And it's those times that I've been grateful for the restraining embrace and wise, loving counsel of those who see the danger of my behavior and thinking at that moment. I've learned to stop being rebellious and listen to the whispers in my ear while being restrained. Sometimes we just have to be held until the wisdom soaks in.
That's beautiful, Pappy.
And the point of that is in regards to what we see happening, around us now and how people are interacting with each other. There's a few people out there that are trying to embrace others with that warm hug and hold them for a period of time, but they're kicking and they're screaming the whole time they're being held. They're not listening. Okay. And that there are some that don't listen. If you've ever tried to give a cat a bath that does not want a bath, you know what I mean.
Yes.
So,
yes.
We can't you can't stress too much about those that will not listen. Uh, the title that you oh, he's talking at the window again. The title that you put out today is pretty obvious to me about what's happening. Some people have awakened. Okay, some of the people that awakened did not like what they saw, and they turned right around, rolled over, put the covers over their head, and they went back to sleep. And we're not going to wake those people up at all.
No.
So and we've seen that happen recently, with certain individuals and stuff. They follow their urge to get as much knowledge as they can, and end up going down a lot of rabbit holes and getting information which becomes uncomfortable, or perhaps unbelievable, or perhaps challenges their belief system so much that they just shut it down. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that information that they uncovered is untrue. It just means that it's not, they're not going to allow it to be part of their reality. And they'll shut it down and they'll withdraw. They go back to sleep. Okay, so we're seeing some of that now too. And I would
Right.
expect to see that continue as more and more information comes out that is proven to be true, but it's going to be so shocking to people that they also might shut down.
Now, I did turn off the news. I did go down a lot of rabbit holes, and I did collect a lot of information. But I don't believe that I have gone back to sleep. I have chosen not to dwell on those things, and because I don't want to make them part of my reality. I don't want to create that reality. And so I had to release them from my, uh, from my, the information is stored, but I had to release the feelings that were associated with that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get information and stuff and relate it to what you're going through, but you don't have to carry it with you. Especially if your lifestyle is such that it is not a direct influence on your day-to-day activities and how the things that you need to do. With everything that's going on in the world today, with all the turmoil, with all the division and all these other things, we still have to clean up the cat litter box. We still have to put the garbage out. We still have to cook our meals and wash our clothes and interact with our families and stuff. We still have to go to our jobs. We still have to work. Those things
Yeah.
have to happen. And, you can get so unbalanced because of the carrying over the emotional turmoil of something that you uncover that's uncomfortable and that you're carrying with you, that you take away from something. And the thing with the energy, when you put the energy out, and you're spending that energy there, that means that you're not sending energy out and spending it someplace else that might need it too. you know
Yeah.
and a couple of things happen. People will disregard things that were once important to them. Other things take on a new importance to them. Um, their A lot of things change. Their metabolism can even change. You know, but the important thing is that they're not seeing it. It gets so insidious that they don't see it happening
Yeah.
to them until they get to the point where they crash, and then when they crash, they shut down. And then for a period of time, they may do what I call turtling. They'll withdraw back into their shell and put that hard shell around themselves and not be willing to listen to anything. Those are the ones that no matter how hard you hug them, they're going to continue to struggle. Because that hard shell will start growing thorns and spines pretty soon, so you have to let it go. And we
Yeah.
don't have to grab and hug and hold everybody. That's not our job. We need to have our arms open for them to come to us if they want to hug. Those are the best hugs, anyways.
They are. You're right. They are. Yeah. I wanted to say something. Somebody had said something over here. Don. Um, I think you did a good thing refusing that, and I I think maybe let your dad know that he taught you well enough to stand on your own 2 feet and not be paid off.
So,
Let him know that you learned that lesson from him. Come here, Chuck, come here. No, I'm just kidding, bud. Um, but that I think that's a really wow, Pappy. I always just feel so in tune with you on a lot of these things. I know everything has its timing, but it just seems like every time there's so much going on in my mind, and I can't quite articulate it. And you'll pop up here, and you'll drop one of those little pearls of wisdom, and it just kind of smooths that out. You know, I love that. Thank you. I appreciate you. That's what I want. I've been wanting to say this to you guys for a long time. So I want y'all to listen real carefully, real close. I thank the divine creator for the gift of you. I love and appreciate all of you.
well, you know that comes back to you. Okay. And how do we know things come back to us? You know, in times of strife, even in times of mundaneness, you know, we'll have people that might gravitate to us during the exciting times. But during those times of downtime and those times of mundaneness and sameness and stuff, a lot of those people will gravitate away from. But you'll always have the core that's there. Okay. They're the
Yeah.
ones that are connected, you know, and everyone has a connection in their own way. And those connections can be more rigid or more elastic depending upon them individually, you know. So when I get up and I talk about these little things and I pull a teaching up out of my files and stuff here, I want you to know that it's something that I've gone through before, you know, and
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with doing any of the things that I even talk about. You know, because I mean I've been the one struggling in somebody else's uh, hug while I was fighting off that urge. You know, and I've also been the one to turtle. And I, you know, years and years ago, well, not years and years ago, but a few years ago, I actually went through that where I not only turtled, I went right back into the hibernation cave for a while. You know,
Yeah. I think we've all done those things at some point in our life, whether we admit it to ourselves or whether we see it in ourselves. But hindsight is a great truth teller if we're willing to look at it objectively, right?
yeah, time
Um,
travel.
yeah, exactly. Yes, time traveling. Um, and I think that's how we do the real work on ourselves. You know, is to sit with our good and our bad, to sit with our giving and our receiving, to sit with our selfishness, because we all have had times of that in our life. Um, to sit with all of the things that make us a whole person, a whole human being, right? So if you're only willing to sit with the good side of yourself, the bad side's going to get lonely, and it's going to start being the bad kid to get attention. And you're going to see an influx of emotions that are negative or low vibe or however you would like to call them. But you're going to start seeing negative self talk, and you're going to start uh, hearing those things because you're unwilling to shed light onto your dark side and say, hey, I see you're there. Let's work through all this, you know, because life is about balance. And balance is not about what's outside of you, balance is about what's inside of you. Because you cannot perceive balance in the outer world if you don't have it within, and it's hard. Yeah, and it's Chuck. Yes, I would agree with that to an extent. Feeding both bears, there is a time and a place for both bears, or both wolves, or whichever story, we all have a light and a dark side. Um, we all have positive emotions and negative emotions. They exist. You cannot deny their existence. In doing so is folly. Um,
Well, sometimes, that going back to the hug, okay, sometimes the hug is meant to restrain someone that is over exuberant, and the one that's doing the restraining is worried about them hurting themselves or making, or I mean, that one hurting themselves or making themselves look silly or whatever. But sometimes you just got to let that little piss pot go and let them run around with the zoomies and stuff until it gets it out of the system, and just sit there and giggle and laugh at them, you know,
yeah,
because they need to go through that in order to experience it, you know. And sure, maybe they're running around in their sock feet and they slip and tumble, and conked their little coconut. But you know what? They get up and they learn, and then you get to give them the hug of compassion, when they come back and say, oh, okay, now I can
yeah,
settle down. And we've got to let that little one out once in a while. Even the rebellious one within us. I've done things that I would consider rebellious, of my restrained self of 20 years in the military. And then once in a while, I'd just go out and I'd let one rip. I'd have one heck of a weekend, you know. I always regretted it Monday morning, but I got it out of my system. You know what I mean? I'm glad that some of those memories disappeared in the fog, actually.
yeah. The fog can be a blessing, can it?
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to answer questions people are asking you about the time that you're in the fog and you don't have an idea of what they're talking about or even believe what they're asking you. Yep, been there, done that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people have gotten so used to people teaching uh, from literature or other means without being able to teach from experience. And so in that manner, in the society that we are in, the culture that we are in, we have lost a lot of respect for those who teach, because you can tell when someone teaches from experience rather than from um, from something they read that was just really cool. um, and I think that those are the best teachers, those are the best counselors, those are the best psychologists, are the people who have gone through things, that understand firsthand. you know um, I'd love to see where we get back to a point where we not only respect our elders, but we um, listen with a whole heart, with an open mind to their teachings, because they're still the keepers of knowledge. And that knowledge can't be passed to future generations if we refuse to listen to it and learn it.
Well, here's something to consider, because I agree with what you're saying. Okay. And, but I've also seen the resistance of people that are presented with those teachers, with those wisdom keepers, if you will, because they cannot um, reconcile what they're being told and what's coming out of their mouth with what they know about them in their past. Now,
Mm.
having said that, I'm going to say this: many of the greatest uh, elders, if you will, or wisdom keepers or medicine people that were very well respected by a lot of Native Americans had some very colorful lives before they became medicine keepers. And I'm talking about very, very colorful life.
Yeah.
alcoholism, I mean, rambunctiousness, just all the kind of stuff that people go through in their lives. But they reached that point of enlightenment where they became something different. They changed the energy that they were. They gave away the energy they had in exchange for something else. Okay, and they were absolutely transformed, transfigured, if you will. Okay,
Hmm.
but the people that knew them, you know, were the ones that were the hardest, had the hardest ears to hear what they were saying. And and I've heard that said many times. A prophet is not listened to in his own hometown
Right.
because of that. Okay, because they knew, this guy, unless they saw the immediate transformation personally, they don't know if they're being played or not. And you see the same thing, when people, some of these channels and stuff that we listen to or whatever, and they'll tell you about their background and their struggles and stuff of this nature, whether or not they've been in and out of prison and things of that nature. And you see some of the same reactions of people that are in the chats and stuff if you watch their comments like I do.
Yeah.
But you're able to tell, a sincere person versus one that's playing somebody else and playing the sympathy card and all these other little things you can do with that type of information. Okay,
Right.
so
That manipulation.
it's really a complicated thing to get wisdom accepted. It's all up to the ears of the person that's listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and you're right. And I think that goes right back to your hug, right? Uh, I've been the person that had to be held in a hug until I understood what it was. You know, I've been that person. I've been that turtle. I've worn the armor of the armadillo and built up my walls so strong and thick that when they crumbled, I was devastated. So I get it. I mean, I do. I understand that from having experienced those things. And I think a lot of us, if we were to revisit certain periods of our life, we would all see that many of us have had to go through those struggles in order to grow. That we
Yeah.
should be thankful for those lessons rather than um, trying to push those away or hide those parts of ourselves. Because I've been that person too, where I had a couple years of just hiding from um, parts of my life, literally to where my brain hid parts of my life from me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we talked
I
about that yesterday. You have to take the pill of truth. You got to be brutal with yourself.
you really
You have to
do.
accept what you see as part of you, reconcile with it, and then move past it. You have to do that.
Yep,
It gives you a bellyache when you take that bitter pill, but you're better for it afterwards.
exactly, exactly. And I think that's maybe that's the lesson. You know, you have the people who are sleeping who don't want to hear. They the bed's too comfy and they're not going to get up. You have the people who are walking around awake, and you have the dreamers. And as I was growing up, um, my generation, if you were called a dreamer, it was a stage before calling you ADHD, right? Because you didn't live in reality. You didn't, you didn't think the way that everybody else did. And my mom would tell me that all the time when I was a kid, that, oh, you're just a dreamer. You need to wake up and face reality. And that dreaming is very important. I think your true self will give you many lessons if you are willing to listen, uh, from a dreamer standpoint. And I think that we tend to put some negative connotations to that, but that's the place that most people actually have access to their inner knowledge. You know, the knowledge that resides within you is more powerful than anything you'll learn outside of yourself. And I think to some extent you have to be dreaming to get there.
Yep.
I know the Aborigines of Australia have what they call dream time. I don't know a whole bunch about it, but I believe it to be somewhat of a meditative state, kind of like a type of rite of passage, right? Where you're spending that time with yourself, with your soul, and you're finding your own truths from within rather than outside of yourself.
Well, yes, that's part of it. Okay. And that's what we call the looks within place. Okay. But the dream time to the Aboriginals is very much what many natives here in this country call the other side camp. You know, the camp where the council of spiritual elders are, and things that where our spirit helpers and everything are. Okay. So, I mean, that's because we came from there first. Okay. That's the dream time. The other side camp. We came from there first, come in to have a physical manifestation. You know, so when we go back into the dream time or the other side camp, you know, we're looking for that spiritual guidance and stuff we can manifest here. You know, so yeah, that's very much a part of what you're saying.
Yeah, I thank you for coming up, Pappy, and helping me out. You knew I was all. You could just feel the chaos, couldn't you?
Well, you know, I'm going to share something with you all. Okay, and this is actually something that happened a few years ago. I was telling a story. I was actually writing a little journal entry, and it had been one of those withdrawal times in my life, and I had neglected my ceremonial circle out there. That was before I started erecting the teepee over it. And that circle, there used to be a swimming pool there, and I had taken the swimming pool down. And what I did is I paved it over with paver stones, and in the center of that I had um, my sacred fire pit and stuff. Well, I neglected it for a period of time as I went into one of those withdrawal times that we all do, and all kinds of grass and weeds and everything grew up in all those cracks and stuff in the stones, you know. And I was wondering about that, so I went to work out there. I went to work out there one day, and I was in that ceremonial circle, you know, and I was kind of cussing, you know, the grass and the fact that I had let it go that long and how tough it was to pull it out and the little trees that had started and all these sort of things. And I'm telling you, it was like a voice came into my head, and I actually wrote it down. And this is what it told me. Okay, and perhaps it has some relevance in some people's situation right now. Okay, which is probably the reason that it came up out of my journal here. And it was basically this. It was like words were being talked inside of my head, and it said, "The spirit in all things provides all that is needed for everything to manifest in the manner that follows the natural laws. Plants will grow because that is their nature. The rain will fall in the place that it does. The wind will blow in the manner it will. It is you who are also spirit manifested in the material that can exercise some control of how the spirit in all things affects you and your manifest reality. Recognize the natural law of things and do something about it so that you can come into harmony with on your path. Learn from the butterfly and raise your awareness so that you also may float in beauty with the spirit in all things. Things are neither bad nor good. They are both part of the same oneness, and both require you to do something. Your greatest blessing you have been given is your choice in what you do about it." And I actually literally said, "Wow."
Yeah, that's
And that's a quote. That's right out of one of my readings.
Wow.
And that is an example, if you will, of what somebody might find in a dream time, or the other side camp, or the help that the spirit would offer. In that time, that inner voice that we hear, that awakening, that illumination, that kick in the pants, that bop on the back of your head. Can you hear me now?
That little Benny Hill slap, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we all have our place. And, with everything that's been going on in our world, and I know a lot of people are very keen on, well, they think they're keen on eradicating any form of darkness. But what I would say to that is, how could you measure light without darkness? How can you measure joy without pain? How can you know the full extent of love without having been hated?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We are truly miracles, each and every one of us. And within each and every one of us, there is a dual nature, both masculine and feminine, both dark and light, soft and hard, right? We have all of these dualities inside of us, always. It's how we were built. And we have free will to choose which one we will navigate through, which one we will show the world, which one we will choose to become. And I do believe those are choices. I do believe that is all tied in with our free will. And I think because we can experience an entire gamut of emotions, we need to balance ourselves. And nature is truly one of the greatest examples of balanced life. Not the pedicured lawns and the pedicured parks and the trimmed hedges to perfection, and not that. That's not the balance I'm talking about. I'm talking about real nature, its own little ecosystem as it exists, as it grows, as it tends itself. Floods wash away toxins out of the soil. Does anybody think about that, or do they just think about the things that get destroyed? That area now will have new silt and new minerals and new nutrients laid on top of that soil from those floodwaters. And yeah, it'll be cleanup, and yeah, there will be a lot of things to do. But that is the earth replenishing itself in that area. Fire. There are plants. There are these beautiful plants and even some trees out in the West. And I think Robert could probably even back me up on this, that they don't sprout. They won't grow without the heat of fire.
Well, that's the case for many of the redwoods and sequoia.
Yeah.
Those seeds have to be exposed to fire. Yeah.
So, we think about these things in negative connotations. We're fed that. We're fed that a lot. But even water and fire, even wind and earth, all both have a duality. They can both grow and create and destroy. They can destruct and destroy as fast as they can grow and create. So it's a dual nature. And we have to be accepting of both, because you have to have water to grow your plants. You have to have the heat of the light to grow your plants. You have to have fire to keep warm in the winter. Um, all these things have dual natures, and if we can look and see that same dual nature within ourselves and understand that there is a time, there's a time for that, right? I could quote you a lot of mythologies, but the only one anybody's going to recognize is the story in the Bible, right? And they say even Christ went into the temple and took a whip to the money lenders, because that was it. He had the dual nature that every human being has, and he recognized that there was a time and a place for such duality, right? We all know, just like Chuck was saying earlier there in chat, we all know there is a time and a place for each one of those bears or badgers or wolves or whatever resides within us. There is a time and a place for both of them, or they would not both exist. And
Well,
it's about knowing, I think, maybe which one.
Well, if you don't have opposites, okay, that are in constant motion, then you don't have movement. And if you don't have movement, you have stagnation. And when you have stagnation, you don't have growth. And when you don't have growth, you are only faced with death. So you have to take it, um, and look at what they call experiencing the shaman's death. It is only from the death of something that something new can be born. And you can look at that in a lot of different ways. Giving up something that was counterproductive or not healthy for you and replacing it with something healthy. So you cause the death of something that has been in order to make fertile ground, if you will, for that which is growing, or that you hope to grow and that you hope to harvest and fruit from. So, but just like in farming, just like in tending your garden and stuff like that, it takes work. You're going to have weeds to pull. You're going to have watering to do. You're going to have these mundane, they seem mundane chores, but they're not really. These are you working in combination with a natural way of things to get a result that you're looking for. Okay, so the work is necessary to do. Left to its own, things will grow in their own manner. Some of I've got these beautiful roses that grow on my fence line, but if I let them go, they just take over everything.
And they strangle out other things, right?
That beauty can only go so far. You know what I'm saying? And then the neighbors complain. But sometimes the pruning itself makes the rootstock and the trunk stronger. Okay, so we need to do this pruning in our lives. We need to do this weeding in our lives, but we need to do it with the understanding that things are going to grow. That's their nature.
Yes.
When you're walking on your yard out there and that you let the dogs out to go to the bathroom, what's their nature? They're going to go to the bathroom if they have to go. Watch your step. Yeah. I learned it real well, So either that or just get the lawnmower out and mulch everything. I've gotten that down to a pretty good science too. So that's the way it is, And once you see that's the way it is, then you can look back on your own life and see where the weeds were growing, and see where you needed watering, and see where you needed a little fertilizer, see when you were enjoying the bountiful harvest and stuff in your life, and and you can look at it that way. Then you can see that you had your up times and your down times. That in times of drought you need to water. In time where there's too much water, you might need to protect them a little bit, So look at it that way. Your life is not going to be perfect. Your life was not handed to you to be perfect. Your life was handed to you to be an experience.
To be lived.
Exactly. To work towards what you would consider in your mind's eye perfection. But what is perfection? Do we know it?
I believe it rests in the eye of the beholder,
Well,
much like beauty.
yeah. Well, that's because the center of the universe is from where we're looking at it. Okay, because every we can turn 360 different degrees up and down and all the way around us, and we're in the center of what we're observing. Okay, but we're only one molecule in that greatness. So we can only strive to perfect what we are. You know, and
Yeah,
one of the ways that I like to look at it is a doctor is always practicing medicine. That means that he hasn't perfected it yet.
that's right.
That means you're open to learning. So if we're practicing being the best that we can, we're keeping ourselves open to learning, throwing away that which doesn't work, and saving the very best seeds to plant for the next crop.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I know there have been times in my life where I have had to prune um, quite heavily in order to have new growth, and it's hard to do that. That is a very difficult task, and many of us have a lot of difficulty um, pruning people out of our lives in order for ourselves to grow. And I think we're at a point now where that actually is one of those topics that people aren't scared to talk about anymore, because it's finally gotten out there enough that people understand that we are in a time where there's a certain amount of self-care that needs to be had. And for all the bad stuff that's come about from this pandemic, um, there's been a lot of good stuff too. How many people have sat down with themselves? How many people have delved deep into themselves and finally looked within? Um, so for everything you experience, your perception of it is what's going to make it one way or another. Um, and I don't say that lightly, guys. I really don't. Um, I've been through a whole bunch of bad stuff in my life, but I don't sit here, woe is me. I don't need pity about it. I don't. I don't pity myself about it. I used to throw pity parties for myself quite often because I was taught that, and I was taught how to use it as manipulation. And when I realized that I actually was doing that, I was ashamed of myself. I was in deep shame, and I had to work on that. But I was also gifted an amount of time to be able to work on myself. So, um, when I look back on those situations now, what I see rather than pain and anguish, I see growth and I see beauty and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for having experienced these things so that I could learn to see better, right? So for me, every series of pruning that I've done in my life, and I've done quite a bit, um, has, even though I'm still waiting, I always feel like I'm still just waiting for the growth. I know I'm still growing. Um, and I know that those things were necessary, or I would have been bound up in other things I wanted no part of. Um, so Pappy made a really good point about speaking from your experiences and sharing your knowledge from your experiences. And instead of holding those experiences in a light that affect your entire existence, right? Maybe start looking at it as its own lesson and find the lesson in it rather than the pain. You have to be able to look beyond those emotions and find the lesson. What was the lesson? And I think in doing that, we can all grow a whole bunch. I know for me, that was a key for me. No matter what I went through or no matter what I experienced, we all have to come to terms with who we are. We all have to come to terms with our emotions in situations or how we handle things, whether it be good or bad. And we have to find the lesson in it, right? It's your choice. Perfection or perception. It's about how you see it from your perspective. So we have the ability, just like they do, to lie. They lie to us on TV. They brainwash people. We all say it. We all know it. There is a certain amount of the population who is very checked out. But so if they have the ability to change your thinking, how much more power do you have over yourself? I think that's where what I wanted to say. How much more power do you have over yourself to change your way of thinking, to get where you want to be, to strive towards that goal? Am I making any sense, or am I just rattling on?
Well, you're obviously making sense to yourself, and that's the important thing. Okay.
Well, thanks, Pappy.
And ultimately, you
I have
know,
so many random thoughts still today.
you know,
I'm very random today.
we come to our own understanding and acceptance of that, which which is our life. So the the difficulty that we have in going through life is the fact that we have to interact with other people. And when we, like this little guy over here, I have to interact with this little needy guy over here. But when we interact with people, it goes back to stop it, you. One of my favorite sayings, and that is, interpersonal relationships is just a wonderful field to get involved in. But you have to remember one thing. You have to take people out of the equation, and then you'll be fine. Because as long as people are in the equation, and as long as Creator has created each of them to be an individual, that's where the stumbling blocks are. Because no two of them are going to be the same. Even if they believe in the same things, even if they voice the same words, something about them is going to make them unique. They may not use the same brand of toilet paper that you enjoy. Who knows? And then you go over there and say, what the heck am I doing with single ply? You know what I'm saying? So in that aspect, if you understand that it's the nature of people to be individuals, and it was the gift of Creator to give each of those individuals a further thing called choice. Now you see the difficulty in interacting with people.
Yes.
Okay? We're not the same. We're never going to be
Yes.
the same. The only thing that's about us that's the same is the spirit within us. Okay. And once that spirit goes out on its life journey, on its earth robe walk, as I call it, it's going to be absolutely different than ours.
Right.
It's going to be unique. That's the greatness of Creator. It is
Yeah.
just so many possibilities out there that you cannot discount any possibilities, even though you haven't seen it because you don't know.
Right.
One
And
thing that you need to know in life is that you'll never know everything,
this
and you
is
don't
true.
know it all now.
Pappy, you brought up something really good there, and it flashed in my mind about power over, right? A lot of people, and myself included, I was guilty of this once too. Power over others. Because power over others makes you feel better. But you will never truly have power over another divine creation until you have power over yourself. So when you see people seeking that without, know that they don't have that within most times. And oh yeah, it would be totally boring if we were all the same. I agree with that. I think our differences are like, think about it this way. we're all a bunch of Christmas bulbs, and we each have our own color, and some of us are burnt out and need to be changed, right? Um, some of us blink, some of us don't, but we're still all connected by that one cord, right? We're still all connected, but we're all different, and that's the beauty of it, to me.
And what's nice about that? We're the new bulbs. It used to be if one bulb went out, they all went
The
out.
whole thing went out. You're right, Pappy. You're right. You know what? And I didn't even think about that. In the old light strands, if one bulb went out, you would spend some time looking for that one bulb so you could change it so the whole string would light back up. And now, if one bulb burns out, the rest stay lit. So I kind of like that analogy that we're Christmas lights. I think that works. Works for me anyway.
Well, our brain cells work the same way. If we get it, and it's been proven medically time and time again, people with brain injury, after a while, the brain develops new pathways to get things done.
Mhm.
There's always a way. If the will is there, if the intent is there, there's
Thank you.
always a way. And if you don't think so, think of somebody by the name of Stephen Hawking. Now look at the limitations that man had.
And he
But
wasn't
his mind
limited in the
overcame
least.
those limitations.
Yep.
Okay, and so many others that we see that have limitations, whether they're self-imposed or whether they're through accident or through their gift at birth. Okay, they have other ways, they have other pathways. Okay, and the pathways are always there. That's why I say people have the same different pathways. The spiritual pathway is always there.
Yes.
Okay, allow people to express it. Don't put your own limitations on it. Say, well, I can't do that anymore. All right. The people that used to run the Olympics and stuff like that, they thought they were out of it until they somebody come up with a brilliant idea called the Para-Olympics, and they could excel in other ways.
Yep.
Each of you out there are just like that. Everyone that I see whose name is in the chat and whose faces pop up here, I look at you that way. Each of you out there are doing it your way. I like that.
I do too. And I love meeting all of you at the watering hole. And then we go about our ways. You know what? Maybe that's what we should call it, the watering hole.
Yeah, the
Because
watering
that's
hole
what it
is
kind of
nice.
feels like. Yeah. Doesn't it? It feels like we all come here for a little respite from our day, from the world, from all the chaos. And we come and we sit together and well, for me, I've always got my coffee. But it's like we're at the watering hole and all of our paths are connected for this time, right? And then we go about our days and we go about our lives. And what a wonderful thing. Even the animals in Africa do this. When the water is low, you will see predator and prey side by side at a low reserve of water because they've all found a watering hole. And so they share it amongst themselves. Yeah. And I think that's there's a natural lesson we could all take to heart.
Well, I'll just put this out there to everybody. Everybody is welcome to my watering hole, and I'd like to be welcomed at your watering hole. And I'll promise you one thing, if you'll promise the same thing to me. When you come to my watering hole and I go to yours, neither one of us should be carrying our dirty laundry because I don't want to drink what you've washed your laundry in.
There you go. There you go.
That goes right back to whether or not you're using 1 or 2 ply as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's brilliantly said, K9 Dogma. He said, yes, aren't we all in our own neck of the woods? And we truly are. We really are. And isn't it wonderful, though, that we can do that we can, and you would always be welcome in my watering hole, Pappy. Always. I'll even set up a little waterfall. just so we all, because I have a cat that only drinks water if it's being poured. She is very funny like that.
Well, Sir Licks-a-Lot, he prefers to have his water running from the faucet in the bathroom as Mama taught him when he was a puppy.
Right on. Well, you know, they do say that toilet water is cleaner than sink water because of the flushing, the bacteria doesn't stay like it does in the sink. They say that. I don't know how true it is. I'm not a biologist and I've never done the study, but I did read about it. And I wouldn't drink from the toilet except for the back tank. Just personal preference.
Even with a life straw?
Even with a life straw, I would find another source. I have a swamp down at the bottom of the hill, so I'm pretty sure I could avoid toilet water if I really had to. Well, a swamp is just toilet water for the animals, so.
Well, you know, sometimes you just got to have fun with life as it presents itself to you, you know, and go with it and, you know, do it in a lighthearted manner. But, you know, look at the lessons that it brings you and, you know, accept the lessons, giggle and laugh when you trip and fall. And, you know, but try not to giggle and laugh when other people fall. You know what they
Right.
say about the difference between an acquaintance and a friend, aren't you? An
Go
acquaintance
ahead.
will see you stub your toe, trip and fall and say, "Oh, are you okay? Oh, are you okay?" A true friend will see you trip and fall and laugh his butt off and say, "You dumbass."
I'm the person I've always been a wee bit klutzy. But even when I was a kid, I was constantly running into things. So as I became older and I got away from my mother telling me how klutzy I was, and I decided, well, I'm not going to be klutzy anymore because, you know, I'm older now. I'm not going to be klutzy anymore. And don't you know it about that time I walk into a post or a pole or a wall and I had to learn how to laugh at myself and go, "Did you see that wall just jump out in front of me?"
Yep.
And so that's what I do. But we have to find the joy, right? We have to find the joy in the experience. Sometimes you have to look for it, but it's there.
Well, you know what? I think sometimes everybody, you need to keep this in the back of your mind. Sometimes I think it's important that we make Creator laugh too. You know, I know he giggles and laughs a lot from some of the plans that I've made about saying, "Well, I'm going to do this way. Watch me. Here, hold my coffee." And Creator says,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, hold my wine. I'm going to spill this. I don't want it to come out my nose."
Yeah, I think you're right. I do. You know, when I was younger, I used to my favorite saying was, "What if we're all just a bunch of sea monkeys in an old man's fish tank?" And as I've aged, that saying is one of those ones that stuck with me that I have never forgotten and that I still use occasionally from time to time because now I think of that statement with a whole lot more I don't know what's the word, sanctity? No. I think of it with a lot more significance. What if we are a bunch of sea monkeys in an old man's fish tank? And he loves us all. And he loves to take care of us and to make sure we're doing well. And we entertain him. And, you know, it's like if you had a fish tank at home, right? You clean the tank. You have to remove the algae and you have to clean out and rinse the stones and you have to make sure the temperature's right. And
Well, you know that's not an original thought you're having, isn't it?
no, I mean,
Because
I
I
know
think
other
I did
people
an
have
episode
proposed
of
the same
Twilight
thing.
Zone where it was something like that, you know, where the people were living inside like an aquarium or a terrarium or whatever, you know. And you've seen science fiction movies, you know, like there's one that comes to mind is called The Dome, and the people are
I
all
don't think I've
living
ever seen
there until they get to the edge of where they're living and they find that they've been living under a dome. You know, the aliens have kind of prevented them from going. Who knows? You know, when it comes to creator, that's the greatest mystery of all. We don't know, do we?
No, we don't know. And I think that's wonderful.
We just got to enjoy the
Honestly.
life we got.
Right. And if you knew everything, you would search for nothing. And I want you guys to think about that, because a lot of times we wish to know more than we know. And we think we want to know it all. But do we really?
Yeah. Be
Right?
careful what you ask for
Be
sometimes.
careful what you ask for.
Yeah,
And
sometimes you just see things that you cannot unsee.
you can learn things that you cannot unlearn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they will cause traumas.
Well,
They
that's
will
that's
cause
part of
trauma.
the
Some of them
that's part of
can.
the awakening that's going on now in the world, because there are certainly have been things going on in the world that have been kept in that deep dark recess, if you will. And even in some of our influencers out there, the big names and stuff and everything, everybody seems to have skeletons in their closet, you know. And sometimes things are just not the way that they're presented or that they appear. Okay, and here again goes to the quandary, you know. Once they've been awoken to that, what do they do with it? Some people just will sweep it right back up underneath the carpet and say, that dust bunny is out of sight, out of mind, and I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And they go back to sleep. We saw that in the movie Matrix. You know, one of the people just wanted to go back into the Matrix. He didn't want
Like,
to
just give me the
deal with
pill.
it.
I just want to go eat fake steak.
Yeah, yep. You know, so and that's, you know, once again it comes down to choices, doesn't it? You know, so just
It really
you know,
does.
be aware that there's so much more that we're not aware of.
Hey,
Be
Pappy,
aware that we're unaware.
can I ask you something?
You
I would
always
love to
do.
know. I would love to know your thoughts on deja vu's.
Deja vu. I think deja
Yes.
vu is us very, very frankly, I believe in more than one universe. I believe in different dimensions, unlimited possibilities. You know, we could well be living out a parallel life someplace. You know what I'm saying? Or have done something
Yeah.
before. One thing I found about spirit energy, there is no concept of time and distance. You know, so does that mean that we've been our own time travelers? Perhaps. I'm going to leave
That's
that
interesting.
open. Perhaps we have been. You know, that knowing that, gee, I know what's coming around this corner right now, and sure enough, there it is. You know, are we precognitive? Did we know that before and just file it away and didn't remember it at the time, or you know,
Perhaps.
are we looking into the future? You know, who knows?
I I kind of feel. I kind of feel like deja vu's are like road signs, because I am of a mind that there are other dimensions, possibly other universes, maybe, and most definitely there are different timelines. Um,
You
I
know,
think they're road signs. I think that we kind of guide our paths like one of those choose your own ending stories that you would read in school when you were
oh
a
yeah,
kid, and at the end of the chapter you had to make a decision, and depending on which decision you chose, you go to a certain page.
yeah,
And I think our lives, for me, this is just what I've come up with on my own. I think our lives are a lot like that we have certain goals that we set for ourselves as our spiritual selves before we come down into these bodies. I think we set certain goals for ourselves, and I think we set certain lives for ourselves. And within those lives are multiple choices.
yeah. People have written about that. I read a book. I think it was called The Contract. That was
Oh, really?
yeah, that uh, goes along that line of thinking also. But you know, when I look at possibilities and I look at, is there any validation uh, of those possibilities and cultural beliefs and things of this nature. Okay, and you'll see different cultures will allude to it. Even the Christian Bible, for example. You know, when Jesus was talking with the disciples, okay, he said, he come right out and said, his Father has a mansion of many rooms, many doors. What did he mean by that? Okay. Did he mean that there were other peoples, that there were other planes of existence, that there were other universes, that there were other beings out there, that there were other dimensions, that there were other planes of existence? When he tells us that we were dealing with principalities and things of this nature. Okay, what was he alluding to really? The great mystery. So the possibilities are there. I put her to sleep. Oh my goodness. Somebody else should grab that link and hop up here. I think she might have booted herself out or something. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I thought I put you to sleep.
No, never, never. I could sit around a campfire with you, sir, any day of the week and every day of the week.
Well, you better hope I have fresh Sebon in, otherwise I'll lose my teeth while I'm talking.
That's okay. My husband doesn't have any either.
Gigi
that doesn't
told me
bother
to go
me
ahead
at
and
all.
read a poem.
Yeah, I think I know for myself, I can only talk from my own experience, right? I can only speak from my own experience. So it's been my experience that I get deja vus at the worst times in my life. And that I always get a deja vu. Well, those road signs are kind of prominent right when I'm supposed to be figuring out what the lesson is.
Well, you wonder sometimes if you were actually shown a little map and saying, okay, now you're here and you need to go up here. Okay, so memorize this map. Okay, and then they take the map away from you and put you on your own. Okay, so now the map is in your mind. I mean, that's still the way that I travel today if I'm going to go long distance in a car, even though they got GPS and everything in the cars now. My thing was to look at the map and see the roads and everything and get that locked into my mind to say, okay, such and such is coming up here. This is the landmark over here, and that's the landmark over there. And that's the way that I learned to navigate. A lot of people are taking the shortcuts now and they're looking for the shortcuts. And sometimes the shortcuts aren't there. If you're relying on technology to show you the signpost in your life, then you better hope that somebody that's talking to you on this technology can explain to you the old methods of map reading. Okay, because you have your own map inside of yourself. The symbols that you have on your map and the way the map presents to you in your mind's eye is different than my map. So I don't know the symbols on your map. I can only tell you about the symbols that's on my map. Or Heather, you can only tell me about the symbols that are on your map. So because my whole roadway has been filled with signs like caution, BS ahead.
I get a little guy with flags, like at the races. This little guy with the caution flags, right?
Children that play.
Yeah. I get that, or I get like the tornado sirens in my head, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go that way.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we get going down the road, just having one of those wild and crazy zoomy times in our lives, and we're not paying attention. We're just listening to the music on the radio and texting away on our little phones and everything else, whatever we're doing in there, and we're headed for disaster. And that's when Creator throws the damn road spikes out in front of us and flattens our tires. Well, at least we slow down a little bit before we get there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it's not
Thank
as
goodness.
deadly a crash.
Thank goodness. Otherwise, it'll be like the Griswolds going off there while they all fell asleep in the car, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you say that. I started trusting that things happen for reasons, right? And just trusting that, I have found several times recently, like Run Gigi's last night, where we would all of a sudden lose our signal, right? And it would be gone long enough that we couldn't get back in or we couldn't stay in. So therefore, it wouldn't allow me to speak, which is probably a good thing because sometimes I have no filter. And especially if I'm in a reactionary state of mind, right? If I'm not, I mean, I don't really have much of a filter anyway, but I do try to be kind. I do, well, in our house, we have a rule. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? Because I have been guilty of not doing any one of those three things before I speak. I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of using the truth to hurt people. I've been guilty of that as well. And doing it in a manner where I intended pain for those people. So when I talk to you guys about this stuff, it's not something that I read in a book. Yes, I have seen it in books, but it's something that I try to live by because I've been that person. That person was not a nice person. I don't have a lot of friends from my past. That was intentional. I'm letting you know. So, when Pappy talks about having gone through some of these things, and that's where you speak from, he's not wrong. And most of you know to be able to understand the difference when people are talking at you or to you. And the people that are talking at you are relaying messages. Now, that's not to say the messages aren't good, but they're not speaking from a place of experience. And I think a lot of people can understand that there is a difference in the genuineness, right, of somebody who has gone through things that they've had to learn from and is just trying to share that with you. So, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? And that is what we teach Raina as well, because it can be true and not be kind. It can be true and not be necessary. So I think that they go together in such a way as to that for us as our, in our family, for us, it's about trying to be better examples for our child. And it's about trying to raise her in a way that she is conscious of what she speaks and how she speaks it. And that there's power in words. And you can heal someone. When somebody walks up to you and says, "Oh, you have such a beautiful smile," or "Girl, that color looks good on you," or "Oh, I love your hair," or for guys, "Oh, where'd you get those boots? Those really look nice on you. That's sharp." Those kind of things can brighten your whole day, can lift you up, right? We've all had those experiences. And in the same token, people can tear you down with just a few words. So if you're conscious about your language, it gives you, to some extent, a barrier against those that would try to tear you down, because you know that they're either not speaking consciously, right? Or there's something going on inside of them that's making their perception look at the world darkly. And I think we really have to be more conscious of our words. You guys always hear me talking about words. Words is a big deal for me. Language is a big deal for me. I really do believe that we were once a telepathic species, that we could all communicate from here through love. I really believe that. And I believe that there is a way back to that. I don't know when, how, or how long that would be to get there. We've all had other ugly things said to us, but just because someone calls you something doesn't make it so. And I know that's easy to say, but trust me, I've been called a monster more times than you know. I have been called many, many things in my life. And names do hurt. They really do. But if you are willing to know who you are inside, if you are willing to sit with yourself in all your good and all your bad, then what someone else calls you will not affect you as much, because you already know who you are.
Well, you see, that's a good indication that you need to take a look at the words that are said to you, the looks that are given to you, the deeds that are done to you, that end up being of a negative type, is a full explanation to you that those that are doing them don't know you. They just don't know you, although they're letting you know about them. Okay.
True.
And they're willing to give you something of negative in order to get some form of negative response in return. Even if that negative response is to make you cry, to make you go further in your shell or whatever, because it gives that certain type of people a self-validation, if you will, that they are an influencer. They are somebody of worth in their own minds. Okay, just like my avatar right there. Well, that's a bear laying there. I'm going to go up and give that bear a good swift kick in the ass. You don't know that bear. Why would you want to kick him in the ass? So what I'm saying to you is, I'd like to have everybody that's had that done to them, I want you to have that same look on your face that that bear has when he just turned around and said, "You just did what? You don't know me." Okay, so you've all got that strength. Chuck knows about it because he's got Badger inside him. Badger says, "Oh, you don't know me. You don't want to." Skunk has that. Skunk says, "You don't really know me." Porcupine has that. "Oh, you don't really know me." Okay. So yeah, Rose, once in a while you've got to be able to say, "You don't know me. You don't know me. I'm not who you think I am."
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. As somebody obviously needs to hear this because it's coming up. But yeah, we must keep this stuff in mind. We really must, and for our own well-being. And if somebody's spewing ugly at you, it doesn't even mean that there's ugly inside them. It means that they're not comfortable with some part of themselves. And so I find that people with a need to cast judgment on others, maybe not even judgment, but to cast out ugliness or disharmony or whatever label you want to put on it, I find that those people are really unsettled within themselves. And some of those people you can reach back out to with love, and they'll be receiving, and other ones are going to say, they're going to slap your arms away, and they're going to struggle, and you have to let them go because they're not ready for it yet.
Yep.
And
that's right.
Yeah, just right back to Pappy's hug. Yeah.
You have to realize too that a lot of the people that do these things, perhaps that's been their training in life. That's been the way they've treated it. And once again, it goes into making those links in a chain, you know, and they get chained to what they've learned, as acceptable or as a demonstration of I'm only spanking you because I love you, that sort of mentality. And
Yeah.
and until they learn otherwise, that's all they know, you know, and that may well be within their nature. And it goes right back to things will grow in the nature of their growth. You see what I'm saying? So the seed that is planted will grow in the way and in the place that it was planted to grow. And only by changing the environment and the care of that seed will it grow into its full potential. You know, uh, you can have a wonderful, beautiful, tall corn stalk on it, but if it doesn't have one ear of corn, has it fulfilled its life? No, it has not. Okay, so and I see that the same way in people, and some are destined to to wither and die back completely. And I don't know what happens to those that die back. Do they get a chance to be, regrown and replanted later on? I don't know that. Okay.
Hmm.
Others are allowed to grow unfettered and just become a tangle to everybody that attempts to get anywhere around them. They get tangled up in the briars and the brambles, and they they overtake other things and they choke them out and these sort of things. And so we're not that much difference if you look at it in that aspect of walking out in this great field of humanity out there. Um, so our interactions, everybody has to have their own place to grow, but when they're crowded together, then the conditions become less optimal for that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I I for one can't live in a city. I lived close to a city once, what they called a city, which was just a really small town, which was a bigger town than I'd ever known. But I think perhaps I just was not meant to ever be a dweller of a city. Um, I've never wanted to go to one, like, when you're a kid and there's all these places you want to go to. There's only been two places I've ever really wanted to go to in my whole life. Scotland and Australia. Then I took Australia off the list after finding out how many poisonous snakes and deadly spiders they had. But I'd still like to go see it. I want to see that giant serpent rock. I want to talk to Aboriginals. I know that may never happen, but do you remember when we talked about if you could have one superpower? This is why I would want understanding. I would want the ability to understand any language, any meaning behind any stories. Like if I were to pick up a book and read it, that I would have an understanding of what was being said. So understanding for me is it's
340. Okay.
For me, that would be the best superpower in the world.
You want to be in the mind of the author.
But yeah, and I want to have that. I guess for me, it's the understanding bit is part of the healing too, or like part of the sharing the love. For me, a better understanding would allow me to be able to help in a specific way or whatever. I don't know. That's how I tie it together, though, in my mind. I tie those things together because I know there are a lot of times that I hear things or see things or read things, and it's like, well, everybody's saying there's this deeper meaning, or they've attributed this other knowledge to this thing, or there's codes, or there's this and that. And I thought, if I could do one thing, I would have perfect understanding. Nothing could be mistranslated. Nothing could be misunderstood. Nothing could be taken as an attack that isn't, and because I believe that we were gifted many, many things from our Creator. That's what I work towards, a better understanding.
Well, you know, with
Love you.
the
Love you.
with the interactions of people, okay, and some of the subjects that we've talked upon today, you know, and how they interrelate with each other, um, it reinforces the importance of understanding that we are creatures of a social nature by our very design, even though we're individualized, even though we've been giving that individuality. And that individuality is like a wonderful, beautiful bouquet that has a lot of different flowers in it. It's gorgeous when you look at it in the overall view. Okay. But it takes a florist with a well balanced eye to put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as we raise our children, as we raise our families, as we raise our communities, as we raise our countries, as we raise our world. Okay, just like my avatar points out, the teaching that's on this avatar is that it takes a community to be able to heal itself, to nurture itself, to take care of itself. Okay, because at the center of it is where we all live. So if all of that activity that is geared towards that remembers the center, and that the center is the all, if you will. Okay, that's the vehicle that we've been given to go through our existence in. You know, that little sphere of the soul that Creator gave us. Well, lent us. Let's put it that way. He lent us that because it comes from Him. We're part of that greater whole. It takes the nurturing of all those other parts of that greater whole to recognize that so that they in turn can come together. That's the only chance that we'll ever have of complete unity.
Yeah.
That's the only chance. And I'll tell you what, that is a tremendous undertaking from where we're at now. And history teaches us that it's been tumultuous. And it's probably still going to be. We aren't there yet, but we're getting closer.
No. But
We can only
anything
put
worth
our hand-
having is worth fighting for, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, it's worth striving for. Sometimes fighting can be counterproductive. You know,
This is true.
if you're such a worthy opponent, such a worthy adversary, at some point in time, you're not going to have any opponents to fight against. They're still going to be out there, but you'll never be able to approach them.
Yeah.
You know, you
It's
can
like
become you can
the
become such
kings
a
and
god in
conquerors
the
of
dark.
old. They
Yeah,
would burn down the villages, and then they had nothing to rule over.
yeah. You know, you can be such a torch in the night. You know that everything that lives in the dark that you're trying to approach and see and help out and stuff runs away from you. You're so bright, they run away from you. And that's like trying to herd cats.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was good. I think that's a fine place to leave this discussion today. What do you think, Pappy?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I see the sunshine.
I think it's been a good talk today.
I think so too. Thank you so much for helping me untangle some of my yarn.
That's okay. I'll just add it to my yarn ball over here.
There you go. There you go. Do you have a final thought for us?
No, I don't have any final thoughts. You know, the only thing I want to put out there to everybody is look, be kind to yourself. Because when you're kind to yourself, you'll be kind to somebody else. And that's important in these times right now. Even if they're not kind to you. Sometimes your
is.
kindness could be nothing more than ignoring them and walking away.
That's probably a kindness on my part for a lot of things.
Yeah,
That's why
I'm
I'm
into the-
thankful when we lose signal. We've had a bad signal all week, but I've had a crappy attitude off and on all week. So that's probably a good thing. Think
You
about
got any
that.
blueprints on your butt?
I haven't looked. I'm going to reiterate one thing that I really think that you all need to hear again. I thank the divine creator for each and every one of you. And I love and appreciate each and every one of you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Love and light. We'll see you guys around.